Hi everyone, welcome to another video from me, Mike, from Lanzarote Information. And this week I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't worry about the weather forecast for this island. And you know what? I know it's a big deal. You save all year for your 1 week or 2 week holiday here, and you really, really want the weather to be perfect. And the truth is, it pretty much always is. It's the forecasts that are desperately inaccurate for here. So you'll look at them and think, well, it's going to be cloudy and it's not going to be that warm. And I'm going to explain to you why the weather forecasts here are really, really inaccurate. And the first thing I want to tell you is that forecasts here are only accurate for 3 to 5 days out. I mean, really, if you're looking at something like the Apple weather app, that will give you a forecast 10 days out. It's always completely and utterly wrong, so ignore that. You can get a decently accurate weather report from AEMET, AEMET, that will give you a pretty accurate weather forecast for the next 3 to 5 days. But let's look at the first reason why weather forecasts are so inaccurate for this island. And there are two things to bear in mind on this. The first is that Lanzarote is tiny. It's a really, really small island. And we're very, very close to an absolutely massive landmass, which is Africa. And actually, it's the Sahara Desert, which is over that away. And it's less than 100 kilometers from here. So that landmass has a big effect on our weather. But we're also a very small island in an absolutely vast ocean. So our weather is affected by Africa, it's affected by the Atlantic Ocean as well. And if there are storms a long way from here, they can be 300, 400, 500 kilometers away, they can affect our weather going forward. So that's the first reason that weather forecasts are not accurate here, because we're small and we're affected by a big continent and a big ocean, which is all around us. But the next reason weather forecasts are inaccurate is because they use pesky averages. Now, let me give you an example of that. I'm sitting right now in Aria. We're 262 meters above sea level. We're in a valley, which is very, very well sheltered from the wind. The temperature right now is about 24 degrees. I haven't been down to the coast today, but it could be that it's really quite windy down in Arietta. It could be 3 degrees higher than here. It could be 3 degrees lower than here. And that's because of the difference in heights, temperature inversions, the wind and the valley and everything else that's involved in setting the weather for a particular region of the island. And here's the problem. Weather forecasts use averages. So, for example, in Arietta, it's windy and the temperature is 3 degrees higher. The forecasting system will just average that between the two. So the answer will be that it will be moderately windy and it'll be 1.5 degrees higher than it really is here. Now, I said at the start, 281 meters above sea level. Well, over that way, there is the top of the Famara Cliffs, the highest point of the island, which is 680 meters above sea level. There's a weather station up there. It's quite often cloudy up there because the Famara Cliffs kind of push a cloud over them, and the clouds tend to stay in the center of the island. So again, the weather forecasting system will include that temperature in its calculations. It will include the fact that it's cloudy up there, even though it's sunny across the rest of the island. So if it was doing a report today using all those averages, it would say it's fairly cloudy and the temperature isn't that high. The reality is it could be very different here in Aria, and again, very different down the coast. But the system has to use an average across an area. Now, in a country that's quite big, like Spain, those averages work out reasonably well. You get a fairly accurate forecast for a specific area of Spain. But here in Lanzarote, because the island's so small, they effectively just give you a blanket average, which isn't very accurate for the island as a whole. Now, in a minute, I'll give you an example of this, something that happened to me last summer that will explain exactly how inaccurate forecasts can be here. But first, I wanted to ask you a question. Are you a Lanzarote lover? Julie and I have always had a view that people coming to visit this island broadly fall into 3 groups. The first group is the people who come here purely because they know the weather's likely to be good, the beer's relatively good value for money, the food is okay, and they know that the pool or the beach, the water will be reasonably warm. They don't really care where they're going on holiday, and, Lanzarote, if it comes up at a decent price, they'll book it. That's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. That's probably the biggest group of people who come to this island. Now, there's a second group of people who are more invested in Lanzarote. They probably come back every year, perhaps twice a year. They know the island, they like it, they know what's right for them, and they keep coming back again. That's very cool. But there's a third group, and the third group, we call them the Lanzarote Lovers. They're the people who are so invested in the island, the culture, the vibe. Are you in that group? That's my question. If you're a Lanzarote lover, you're probably planning your next holiday while you're still here. When you're not on the island, you're probably thinking about it. You absorb everything you can in terms of the culture, the feel, the history, and everything else of Lanzarote. You find an ethereal beauty, as I do, in the white buildings, in the volcanic landscape, and you just absolutely love the place. Now, if you fall into that group and you consider yourself a Lanzarote lover, I would like to invite you to subscribe to our weekly newsletter. I've been writing that newsletter every single Friday since 2008. I've never missed a Friday. A lot goes into it. I'll give you loads and loads of information about the island. I'm not going to do a big sales pitch for it here. If you look down below in the description, you'll see a link to it. The page that you go to will explain everything about the newsletter and what we put out every Friday. You'll also have a chance to click and view one to see what it looks like in real life, if that's the right word. So if you're a Lanzarote lover, please have a look at that. And if you think that it's something that is of interest to you, I'll look forward to talking to you next Friday via the newsletter. Now, I said I'd give you a real life example of how inaccurate the weather forecasts can be here. And this is from last summer. And I remember last summer I looked at the weather forecast and it said the temperature would be 32 degrees, cloudy and windy. And sure enough, when I got up, there was a breeze. It was cloudy. The temperature was the high 20s at that point. But then I had a series of appointments in different parts of the island. And the first place I went to was Playa Honda. And on the journey down to Playa Honda, the cloud had disappeared. And this was, at this time, this was like 10 o'clock in the morning. So the sky was relentlessly blue all around the island. There was no cloud at all. So the cloudy thing went out the window at that point. I did my meetings in Playa Honda, and then I drove on. And by the time I got to Puerto del Carmen, the wind had dropped completely as well. So the cloud that had been forecast was gone by 11, 12 o'clock. The wind that had been forecast was gone by 12 o'clock. And then the temperature, of course, started climbing because there was no wind and no cloud. And within an hour or two, by 1 or 2 o'clock, the temperature had risen to 36 degrees. Now, that's a really big difference. So I could have gone out. In fact, I did go out on that day expecting cloud, wind, and 32. What I ended up with was relentless blue sky, 36 degrees, and no wind at all. I was boiling. So I go back to my original statement. Don't worry about the weather forecasts in Lanzarote. The truth is, we genuinely have the best weather in the world here. Almost every day, all through the year, is good. Our winter weather, midwinter, is like the United Kingdom's best summer day. That's in the winter. In the summer, it's significantly warmer. The ocean is warmed. The winds tend to be reasonable to give you a little bit of cooling, but not too much that it's annoying. We, as I said before, have the best weather in the world. So relax, chill out, and just enjoy it. If you do wake up one morning and the weather isn't great where you are, consider going to another part of the island. Jump in your hire car if you've got one. If you're in Playa Blanca and it's cloudy and a bit miserable, 9 times out of 10, if you drive to the north of the island, to Orsala or Guatiza or Aria, you'll find the weather's great. That's the way to avoid it on the odd occasion where you get not great weather wherever you are. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed that. That's been another video from Lanzarote Information. If you did enjoy it, please give us a like. If you've got a question or a comment about the weather or anything else to do with Lanzarote, put it in the comments below. I read every single one of those and I'll always answer your questions. Bye for now, everyone.